Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Craig Burrell, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Flight Lieutenant Dylan Kinney. We warmly welcome the family of Trooper Charles William Collins, whose story will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family, visitors to the memorial, and students on behalf of St Mary's Catholic Primary School from Georges Hall, New South Wales. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. Please be seated, if you can do so. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the hearts of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Trooper Charles William Collins. Charles Collins was born on the 5th of June, 1889 in Port Adelaide, South Australia. Known as Charlie, he was one of 8 children born to Charles and Ellen Collins. He received his education at the local public school, and in his youth worked as a chauffeur and mechanic for George Prosser, the former mayor of Norwood. He also enjoyed playing both football and cricket in the local teams. In 1913, Charles's father died. Charles and his family relocated to the rural town of Wumby, where they farmed sheep and wheat. Charles became involved in local politics and was appointed as the first secretary of the Wumby branch of the United Labour Party. During a drought in the region, he returned to work for Mr. Prosser, where he was employed at the outbreak of the war in 1914. Charlie Collins enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 20th of January 1915 in Oaklands, South Australia. He was assigned to the 9th Light Horse Regiment and was farewelled in his hometown of Wumby during the local football match, taking the opportunity to say goodbye to his family and friends before he left for mission camp and initial training. He embarked from Adelaide on board the troop ship Moria on the 26th of August 1915. His brothers Edward, John, Josiah and Bert also enlisted and served throughout the war. Trooper Collins arrived on the Gallipoli Peninsula in October and joined his unit in the front lines. By this time, the campaign had been deemed a failure. Major offensives were no longer taking place, and a stalemate had ensued. There were whispers of plans to evacuate the peninsula and abandon the campaign. Though major offensives were no longer taking place, the front lines remained a dangerous place, with sniping and shelling occurring regularly. The 9th Light Horse played a defensive role, holding the line around an area of the front known as Rhododendron Spur. By November 1915, heavy snow was beginning to cover the peninsula, creating freezing conditions which made the trenches even more inhospitable. The stalemate continued into late November. Those serving in the front lines were under constant danger from Turkish snipers who were using the white background created by the snow to target increasingly vulnerable troops. On the 29th of November, Collins was sent to an observation post in Kid Sap. A day earlier, his comrade, Private Baker, had been killed in that location. While on duty, Collins was targeted by Turkish snipers and mortally wounded. He was later found dead. His remains were buried at the nearby Embarkation Pier Cemetery. Less than 1 month later, his unit was evacuated when the Allies abandoned the Gallipoli campaign in December 1915. Local newspapers reported the young soldier's death, noting that he held the esteem and respect of all who knew him. His family later placed a notice which read, "Alas, our hero brave is sleeping, undisturbed by shot or shells. Angel hosts their watch are keeping, somewhere at the Dardanelles." Charlie Collins was 27 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour to my right among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His name is listed, his photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Trooper Charles William Collins, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and for the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director, staff and volunteers, we thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.